Page 117, Chapter 4. O, you people of your kind, or human beings, do not be afraid of the truth, neither of the laws and recommendations of the wellspring of all life or creation, because only in them is true love and equitableness or fairness. You have been created in your origin from the wellspring of all life or creation, and you have made yourselves companions as man and wife, and have multiplied. Heed one another, and be afraid of doing unright to one another, so that you may be good to one another, and make requests instead of issuing commands. Uphold the bonds of relationship between one another, because both as woman and as man you have entered into life, as people of your kind, or human beings. Therefore, amongst you the only differences are the body, sex, and the nature, or thought world / feeling world / character, actions and behavior, feelings, the power, the attraction or charms, and the capability or ability of pregnancy. Truly, as woman and man are in inequality or difference in these things, yet in existence they have common duties and rights, so that neither the man shall stand above the woman in any things, nor the woman above the man. And just as man and woman undertake the same work, so they shall receive their wages equally, so that neither the man nor the woman is paid more than the other for the same labors. Truly, equitableness or fairness is when man and woman grant each other the same duties and rights, although it shall be rightful for the one party who has the greater proficiency or empowerment for certain duties and rights to be involved more for these. And it is rightful that congress or sexual intercourse between man and woman shall only be permitted if consent is granted. If, however, the woman or the man is induced into congress or sexual intercourse by Gewalt, then a defilement or violation is carried out, which shall result or be prosecuted by right and law with a fulfillment of guidelines or punishment. And as you create descendants, it shall be done in the measure of insight or rationality, so that the standard measure of the number of all peoples or humankind does not get out of control in a very bad wise, and result in immoderateness or overpopulation, and the world and its weathers, the appearance or nature, and all life on earth do not suffer great and lasting damage, or destruction of the environment / destruction of the climate / extinction of forms of life / wars / crimes, etc. Therefore, the recommendation of insight or rationality, and of control over extent, is given for obedience or following, so that no calamity may come over you and your world. Consequently, it is recommended that you keep yourselves within bounds or limits, and manage or monitor the standard measure of the number of all peoples, and that you undertake or carry out a measurement or census every certain number of years, so that the measure of all inhabitants of earth does not become too great, and remains within the number of the maintainable or supportable, without leading to harm, or 529 million. And if you have orphans, then give them their possessions which belong to them, and do not exchange good things for bad, and do not live off or steal their possessions in order to combine them with your own, because such actions are unrightful and despicable, and mark you out as unfair ones, or irresponsible ones, and unrighteous ones, or conscienceless ones, if you do them. If you are afraid of not being fair to orphans and of doing wrong towards them, then learn from the laws and recommendations of the wellspring of the love, or creation, and from the truth teaching of the true prophets, which way you must take, and what actions you must use, in order to be fair to the orphans, And if there are orphans who can be taken by people in union, or a married couple, or by a woman or man alone, as their own or adopted, then it is rightful for the children to be rightfully provided with everything necessary and given instruction or education, which shall be inspected or checked by the authority. If there are half-orphans, without a father or mother, then do a noble deed, and take the half-orphans to be your own, when you enter into a bond or marriage with the mother or the father, so that the children may have a true father or a true mother in love. And if you join with or marry the mothers or the fathers of half-orphans, then behave equally towards the children without any difference, as if you had begot them yourselves. If, however, you have to fear that you act inequitably, then do not enter into the bond or marriage, or taking the children as your own, or adopting them, because that is the simplest wise for you to avoid unright. And if you have orphans who are living in places for orphans or orphanages, or for whom you are caring, or foster parents, and who are growing up with you and are provided for and brought up by you, then care for them until they have grown out of youth, or grown up. And if you perceive understanding and obligation, or responsibility, with them in good measure in all things when they have grown up, or come of age, then issue them with their possessions, so that they may decide what to do with them themselves. And take care that you do not swindle them by claiming the orphans' possessions for your own. However, also make sure that the orphans, when they have grown out of their youth, or grown up, and come to their possessions, do not consume them hastily or wastefully. And it is rightful, if the orphans receive or inherit great wealth from their parents, the parents of their parents or grandparents, or the godparents or sponsors, for the places for orphans, or you, as foster parents, to live on it according to equitableness, or approval/fairness. If, however, the places of orphans or you as foster parents are wealthy, then it is rightful for the orphans' possessions not to be used, and when you give the orphans their possessions, have witnesses in their presence, and also have the issue of the possessions recorded in an accreditation, or receipt, which is sufficient for the reckoning. Indeed, if you consume the possessions of orphans unrightfully, then you are only swallowing fire and smoke, and you will burn with flaming fire in your inner, when your admonishment or conscience calls you to account. And you, man and woman, who are in a bond or marriage, give one another voluntarily and benevolently gifts of thanks for this and that, whether it be an embrace, a flower, a caress, or whatever else that speaks of thanks and love and esteem. In the bond or marriage, share everything out of your own free will amongst yourselves, and enjoy everything as delight and pleasure in mutual inclination. And if you have irrational ones, or deranged/feeble-minded ones amongst you, then you shall not allow them to conjoin, or marry. Neither shall you yourselves enter into a bond with them. And if you are keepers or carers of irrational ones, or deranged/feeble-minded ones, then do not entrust them with your goods and fortune for their welfare, but nourish them with it, and clothe them, and speak friendly words to them, just as you shall be helpful, with advice and deeds. Both the man and the woman are due a certain proportion of that which parents and close relatives leave behind, whether it is little or much, depending on the allotments made by the leavers behind, or bequeathers, in a document of assignment or last will. The fair or tolerable rule for dividing up the heritable goods, chattels, and wealth is that in the event of a bond or marriage, the surviving woman or surviving man shall receive 2 parts, or 2/3, of all the goods and chattels, and of the entire fortune and wealth, whilst the other part, or 1/3, shall be apportioned to the surviving children in equal shares. If the father and mother lose their life, then their entire heritable goods, chattels, and wealth shall be apportioned to the descendants in equal shares, and if there are descendants from previous bonds, or first marriage, second marriage, etc., then they shall be entitled to even shares with the descendants from the last bond or marriage in the heritable goods, chattels, and wealth of the person in the bond or marriage partner who is their parent, or mother or father. If a deceased's heritable goods, chattels, and wealth, or heritage, have to be distributed, then it is rightful for any debts and other payments to be settled first, before any distribution amongst the descendants. And know that your wife or your husband, as well as your fathers, mothers, and children, are always closest to you, wherefore this establishment of the heritage is given in this wise, so that equitableness or fairness and equality may be upheld amongst all. If, however, a man and a woman are in bond or marriage, and do not have children, and the woman or the man dies, then the entire heritage belongs to the surviving partner, or man or woman. And if people without a bond, or unmarried people, or descendants or family die, and they do not have any children, then their entire heritage shall be apportioned equally amongst their brothers and sisters. And if there are none of these either, then their place shall be taken by the next closest relatives. And if children, sons, and daughters die who do not have their own family, then their entire heritage shall fall to their parents, or, in any case, half of the entire heritage, if a document of assignment or last will decrees something different from the other half. And if brothers and sisters die when both parents have already died, and if none of the brothers and sisters are in a bond or marriage, and if none of them have any descendants, then all shall receive equal shares in the entire heritage of the deceased. However, at least half of the entire heritage, if a document of assignment or last will decrees something different for the other half. And because of equality and equitableness or fairness, it is not permitted for any reason whatsoever for entitled ones, or ones entitled to inherit, of heritages, to be disadvantaged by a document of assignment or last will, or excluded from the heritage. And it is decreed for your children that female and male children shall receive equal shares of the goods and chattels and the wealth of the leavers behind or bequeathers, mother or father, so that no more shall be apportioned to one party than to another, and that equality and equitableness or fairness may be given, and neither the female nor the male descendant be preferred. And if other relatives and poor ones, or orphans, are present at the allocation of the heritable goods, chattels, and wealth, or dividing up of the heritage, and if they are not taken into account therein, then give them something from that which you receive as inheritance, and speak with them in kind-heartedness and with friendly words. If, however, you receive an inheritance, then you shall not fall into dispute amongst yourselves because of it, for it is rightful for each of you to be satisfied with the share that is granted to you by the leaver behind, or bequeather. And those amongst you who cannot yourselves leave any heritage when you depart this life, you shall not be afraid for this reason, or concerned, because there are no grounds for shame, and it prevents much dispute. These are the guidelines and set barriers derived from the recommendations of equality and equitableness or fairness, so that equality and equitableness or fairness, but no disadvantage, may prevail all around, and so that neither strife nor resentment, and neither jealousy nor acts of revenge may come about amongst entitled ones, or ones entitled to inherit, from those left behind, or family. However, Anyone who transgresses these recommendations of regulation and reckoning is not only creating a calamity in themselves, but also all around amongst those who are involved. Therefore, disparagement or contemptibility / defilement / abasement / dishonor will not fail to come about. And if a man or a woman amongst you commits chastisement or violation by defiling or misusing / violating children or a woman or a man at their sexual organ, then call for witnesses and request the jurisdiction to subject the fallible ones to fulfillment of guidelines as punishment, and separate woman from men or men from women, or exclude from society and from the other sex for an appropriate time. And if two women amongst you, or a man and a man, have congress together, or engage in sexual union, then they shall not be punished, because a woman and a woman in sexual congress or sexual union is given by the laws of appearance or nature, so that they may copulate together if the need arrives. However, if a man and a man have sexual congress with one another, then that is against the law of appearance or nature, in such a wise, or unnatural, because they cannot copulate fruitfully to produce offspring. But it is in the law of appearance or nature that sexual congress or sexual union between man and man is natural or unnatural naturalness, and only serves love and sexual satisfaction or gratification. Therefore, neither man and man, nor woman and woman, are committing an unright when they have sexual congress with one another, or sexual union. Therefore, they do not bring down punishment on themselves, nor do they have any need for regret or improvement. So there is no requirement to open up a way out of their penchant or disposition, and they shall live in peace as ones with a different nature in sexuality, or lesbians / homosexuals, amongst those who practice their sexuality between man and woman. Truly, hard punishment and remorse for any doings only are of value if something evil is done knowingly or consciously. If something evil is done unknowingly, and a law or recommendation is infringed, then lenience is appropriate, and the punishment should be set such that mild commensurability is provided. Remorse cannot be accepted from those who continue in their evil doings, because they are only making a show of remorse, and do not consider ceasing their evil doings, for which reason they shall be subject to a hard punishment, in a place of fulfillment of guidelines, or remote place or remote island, for a certain time, in order to experience true remorse, so that they may be honestly connected to remorse, and cease their evil doings. Those amongst you, man and woman, who are connected to one another in a bond or marriage, in truth, equitableness or fairness, and in reckoning, it is not permitted for you to appropriate the goods and chattels and wealth of the other party against their will. Neither shall you withhold the goods and wealth of the other party unlawfully, or take away a part of it. And whatever you have given to one another shall not be demanded back, even if you are harmed by disgracefulness or badness, or if you break your bond, because a gift or present is given in good memory that, given at its time, has its value and cannot be taken back. Therefore, demanding it back is the same as theft. If you feel in yourselves anger or unwillingness or aversion against the bonded companion, against man or woman, then also remember what goodness has been given by the other, and what has been given in goodness and badness on your part, so that you make an assessment, or pay attention / consider, from both sides in order to reach a truly fair or commensurate arbitration or decision, and act in a decent wise. And if you, woman and man, have already pledged or promised/vowed a bond or marriage to one another, and if you nevertheless go your own ways again, or separate/dissolve the betrothal, and you have already given one another treasures, or jewels/property/presents, then do not take any of it back, because a gift or present is given in good memory that, given at its time, has its value and cannot be taken back. Therefore, demanding it back is the same as theft. Gifts or presents that have once been given shall remain gifts or presents for all time and in all circumstances, and never be demanded back unless the one who demands back the gift or present accuses or incriminates himself or herself of having lied. Truly, you cannot take back gifts or presents from one another, either if you have been alone with one another or joined in sexual intercourse, whether you have slept with one another or had sexual intercourse in a fixed bond or marriage, or only in confidential unity or mutual liking.